Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to work on my Hubsan X4 Desire H502e. Apparently my quadcopter is having issues with this propeller. When I arm the quadcopter, these three have a higher revolutions and this one is extremely slow. Initially I thought I had a bad motor, but I'm thinking more that it's not a bad motor, only because it still spins. And if it was a bad motor, it wouldn't spin at all. So I have some gears here that I have spare gears, and I also have a transmission rod that goes in the gear. And it's possibly that I might have a bad bearing, which I don't have a spare. It's on order. But this goes in here. And if this wears out, then it creates friction on the motor, and the revolutions per minute on the propeller gets really slow. So I might have to replace the gears and the transmission rod, and hopefully that will fix the situation. I'll show you when I arm the quadcopter how this is extremely slow. Sometimes when I push it down, it stops. At the moment, it didn't stop. The idling revolution on these three motors are normal speed, and this one's extremely slow. I have to give it more throttle to have this keep up with the other three. And it starts to slow down a little bit. So when I give it down motion, this is idle. Now when you go flying your quadcopter and you're bringing it down, you always push this down. You don't want this, you want all the propellers to be similar revolutions per minute. This is extremely slow, so this will come down kind of crooked. And if this fails, it will fall from the sky. So there's something wrong with this gear or bearing. So we're going to open this up and check it out and hopefully fix it. So that's what we're going to do next. You can see when I disarm it how quickly this shuts off compared to the other three. These roll for a little bit, which is nice. You want it to be smooth and gradually slowing down. There's a lot of friction on this one, so I'm not too positive what's going on, but I'm going to find out very soon. So when I arm it, it's very slow. When I disarm, boom, something's keeping this from spinning freely. So it's best to use the screwdriver that it came with. So we'll start with removing the propellers. And whoops, wow, my hand slipped on that one. And just unscrewing it. Okay, so that's the first propeller. And remove the second propeller. And the third propeller. And the last propeller. Okay. Alright, so what we gotta do here next is, so this is my problem child, this one. We have to remove the 4 covers of the landing pads, and there's 2 screws here on each landing pad. So we have to remove that. start with this one. They're tiny screws, so you gotta be careful not to lose them. Magnetize my screwdriver. Put the screw here. Now, there's like a little tab here. There's a little hole here. You can see the hole right here. So the two screws are here, and there's a little hole here. So you got there's a tab right here holding the landing pad. So you got to kind of like try to pull it out, and it could be a little bit of a pain, but kind of like. See if I can get a grip to it. Carefully, you don't want to damage the tab. Here we go. Here we go. So you can see the tab on. So that holds this part of the landing pad right here. So it's two screws and a little tab, and you just pull it out. And I'll do that for all three. Okay, so once you remove all the landing feet, the landing pads, and remember there's a little tab that you have to pull out, you'll see this. You'll see the actual motor and the gear. But to get in there, you have to open up the quadcopter completely. And there is a screw here. There's a screw in there. That's 1, 2, 3. There's 3 in each arm. There's another one here, here, and here, and it repeats itself all the way around. So what I have to do is remove all these screws, which I'm going to start with this one. And just unscrew it. So you remove the screw from this here and there and go all the way around. So these little tiny screws are your landing feet, and these longer ones are the body of the quad. And it's not too hard because it's just two types of screws. You have little tiny ones for your landing pads and longer ones for the body of the quad. So I got that one out. So I have to go down here. So take this one out. Okay. And just take your time with this. And the thing is, you don't want to lose your screws, so I highly recommend to have some kind of place where you keep your screws. I use this bowl. It's a magnetic bowl, so I won't lose my screws. And you go down this arm, and just be careful not to strip it. They're tiny screws, and eventually they'll all come out. You just take your time, like I said, and you're dealing with a very tiny screw, and the tip of it can get stripped. So you just make sure you're in there flush and turn the right direction to remove. Remember, left loose, right tight, and just do 1, 2, 3 in each arm and go all the way around, and that will loosen up the quad. Okay, so I removed all the screws, and there are a total of 12. 3 times 4. Now you're gonna have to try to pry it open. It's all seamed in here with little tabs, but before you do that, you should open this up and leave it open. So you start from one side of the motor and go around and do the same thing. Just be careful, go around evenly. You don't want to break any tabs, so you do this evenly, and you just work around the quad. And there's wires, so when you open this up, don't just yank it out, because you're gonna rip the wires. The wires are attached to the motors, And I'll show. So you have to open this askewed. So let's okay, go around, make sure, and as I said before, see the wires are holding the motors. You can see that. So don't yank this straight up. You will rip the wires of the motor. So this is, let's see which one was my problem child. This one, the B, the back and the B. So I'm going to focus all my attention here. So I'm just going to just open this up and just gently just move the body out of the way without let's hold it. All right, so okay, yeah, you gotta be very patient with this. So I'm just moving this out of the way. That's all I really need to do. All right, so you can see that the wires I hold right here for the motor. And you can raise this up to get it out of the way, which is what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to remove the gear and we'll take a look at that transmission shaft and clean it up. I think I'm just going to replace it because it looks kind of really worn down, and put a new transmission shaft and a new gear. Here's my bearings. So it looks good. The bearing looks good. It's lubed up, which is good. So I'm gonna replace it with a new transmission shaft and a new gear. There's the gear. So you can see the big difference from the old and the new. And hopefully that will help it spin better. Now I can replace this little gear that goes on the motor. I do have spares on that. There's a tiny little gear that goes on the motor, which goes on this gear. And I have spares on that too, so I might as well replace that too since I have it open. So let's do that. So that's the new one. Alright, so let's pull this thing out. Let's see if I can remove that one out. Honestly, I don't think I need to replace that one. It looks good to me. So I'll leave that alone. I really think it's the transmission shaft that is all messed up. So I'm just gonna put the new gear in. Just slide this in. Okay. All right. And take another closer look at this little gear to make sure that's not under very close inspection of this tiny gear. It seems to be perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do is put in the new transmission rod inside, and hopefully it'll grab the gear. Yeah, it is. Good. It's grabbing. You can see it's turning. And from there, put everything back together like so. Make sure everything is in place. And hopefully I don't have to change the motor on this. When you put this back together, just make sure you don't pinch any of the wires. So I'm just going to put this back like so. Put it back. Make sure all the tabs are lined up. Okay. Take your time with the wires. like this one's completely off. This motor mount came right out. So just push this back. It will go back into place once you push it back. Okay, the motor mount came out. Now it's back in. Just take it so just make sure all your motor mounts are back in place, and just slowly start clipping this back, and make sure you're not pinching wires. Make sure your camera's on straight, and go around, carefully go around and re-clip it. And it's a little bit of a pain because it does line up crooked. Right, so you'll start going around, putting back the screws. I like to jump around in different places when I put the screws, so it can kind of like, that will be one spot, squishing it down. So kind of like a lug nut of a tire. So I'll just pretty much do these fours. I'll do those four first and go around and do that, just to have something evenly held as you start putting everything back together. So I'll do that one. And don't over tighten it, you just want it to be snug. Remember, the tiny little plastic screws, I mean, the screws are metal, but the body is plastic, so if you over tighten it, you will crack it. So you don't want to do that. So that's basically it. We'll go around the body of the quad, and the main thing is when you do this, just make sure when you put it together, you don't want to pinch any wires, and make sure the camera is put on right. And let's see. So these three are done. I did this one. I put a screw in this one, yeah. And then you grab one of the landing pads, and basically, see the tab, you just put it back in there and just snap it back. And then the landing pads have smaller screws, and we just put 2 screws per landing pad. And you don't want to over tighten, like I said before. Just make sure it just goes in snug. And that's it. You just go around. I just got done putting all the landing feet, and I turn on the quad, and it has 6 satellites, which is the minimum requirement. But it doesn't matter. I can still turn it on even if it has less. I just can't do a return home. But again, it doesn't matter because I'm indoors. So we replaced the transmission shaft and also the gear to help it spin a little bit faster to keep up with the other 3. But my guess is it's still not going to be perfect because the bearing is pretty, it's going. And the bearings are on order. So I'm going to start the quad. And you can see that it's a little slower revolution compared to the other 3. It's not horrible. It has improved significant with the new gear and the new transmission rod, and maybe it'll eventually break in a little bit better and speed up. If I give it more throttle, it looks a lot better. They're all pretty much in sync. I'm just concerned when I reduce throttle if this gives out on me while I'm coming down from the sky. So when I reduce the throttle, this is all the way down. This is a little bit slower. Not really what I like to see, but it's not that bad. I'm glad to see it's better though. So definitely I'm going to have to replace the bearing. I can't wait for those bearings to come in. And that's basically it, guys. I'm going to shut it off to show you how it looks when it shuts off. And I have a feeling when I shut it off, this will be the first one to go. So let's do that. We'll disarm. And you can see how quickly this shuts off. And I'll turn it back on. it's good, but when I reduce throttle, again, you can see it slowing down. So, and then I disarm again. And you can see it kind of shuts on me really quick. So it's definitely the bearing. So, alright, so now I know exactly what it is. What am I going to do? I was hoping for the not being the bearing, then I can start flying right away, but I'm going to have to wait for the bearings. So, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. And stay tuned for me to show you how to put the bearings in.